Where are you, Luna? Come here. Come on to bed. Wanna come on to bed? That's not what. Luna, come on. Wanna come up here? I'll pay you a little bit while I'm playing Minecraft and doing art history homework. Great. Come on. Come up here. Okay. Well, come here. Here. Yeah. Girl. Baby. Oh, shit. Let's just keep that away from you. Okay. So we're back at it again. Day 2. You know what? I need to add that. That's very important. So much information. But I think it needs to be that way. It either needs to be, that's fine. It either needs to be like super, like, all this information, or it shouldn't go that direction at all. Like, it needs to be overload. Anyways, I'm the, you know, how to properly execute the title, joke, humor, whatever. I don't know. So today, we continue digging. We're also going to continue listening to, what was this? Ewan's PR, exclamation point, chapter 9.
The mass media, dominated by commercial interests, would provide subservient channels through which a broad public might be schooled to a corporate point of view. The polling system and a burgeoning market research establishment would provide the channels through which the public would be known and then responded to. Pollsters would henceforth be the messengers through whom the public interest would be ostensibly articulated. Abstract, statistical renditions of democracy and of the public itself were appearing, ideals or memories of a participatory public were being annulled. Self-promotions from within a nascent polling establishment only bolstered this trend. The unambiguous equation of polling with democracy was promulgated by Sherrington, who described opinion polls as nothing less than the vox populi, speaking wisdom through chi-squares, medians and cumulative means, standard deviations, and other strange statistical gadgets. Polling, he maintained, gives new meaning to a whole list. Pollsters would henceforth be the messengers through whom the public interest would be ostensibly articulated. Abstract, statistical renditions of democracy and of the public itself were appearing, ideals or memories of a participatory public were being annulled. Self-promotions from within a nascent polling establishment only bolstered this trend. The unambiguous, abstract, statistical renditions of democracy and of the public itself were appearing, ideals or memories of a participatory public were being annulled. Self-promotions from within a nascent polling.
That's why I named the stream. That is why I named the stream. Back in the minds and how mass suggestion through marketing is threatening the linchpin to democracy, day 2. Or linchpin of democracy, sorry. Anyways. Yeah, man.
Establishment only bolstered this trend. The unambiguous equation of polling with democracy was promulgated by Sherrington, who described opinion polls as nothing less than the vox populi, speaking wisdom through chi-squares, medians and cumulative means, standard deviations, and other strange statistical gadgets. Sherrington, who described opinion polls as nothing less than the vox populi, speaking wisdom through chi-squares, medians and cumulative means, standard deviations, and other strange statistical gadgets. Polling, he maintained, gives new meaning to a whole list of such common terms as free speech, democracy, social reform, labor movements, consumer demand, and even public opinion itself.
What
Statistical research
Fuck
would be the method through
you!
which
Whoa!
democracy would finally be brought to a F.
To an F?
Modern pipelines of
What?
persuasion slash
Bring democracy to an F? We can't have that. It's not good. It's funny. It really is. It's partly how it was like formatted, but let me read this out loud. Polling, he maintained, gives a new meaning to a whole list of such common terms as free speech, democracy, social reform, labor movements, consumer demands, and even public opinion itself. The quotation marks meaning that all that stuff is said to be brought through polling, but polling really doesn't, do all that. Statistically, statistical research would be the method through which democracy would finally be brought to a F. But no. Statistical research would be the method. Statistics research would be the method through which democracy would finally be brought to a large-scale society in which the common good was often ignored. That didn't happen. What are you talking? That didn't happen. What do you mean?
1A77. Large-scale society in which the common good was too often ignored. He narrated a history in the making. Democracy, on a small scale, is able to express itself swiftly and with certainty. He New England town meetings, and similar instances could be cited if evidence were needed. But for nearly 100 years beginning about 1835, with the growth of our cities, states, and the country as a whole, the people have become less and less able to say what they thought concerning many vital matters. Within the past 5 years a significant change has come about. The principles of statistical sampling, already worked out in other fields, have been applied to this job of giving voice to public opinion. If democracy is government by the people, and if it depends for its very life on free expression of unstampeded common sense, then by this newly applied technique of giving it a voice, we see the importance of the true and representative cross-section. The prime requisite of an effective democracy is that it must get at some satisfactory balance between all kinds of people. 29. The implications of public opinion.
Yeah, see, that's kind of like the problem, right? It's like what is the solution then, right? I have all this stuff I can use for trading. I need to get stuff. I'm not really using Lapis Lazuli too much. I can bring it with me and maybe trade it with someone. Oh wait. Awesome.
Measurement for democracy, however, are considerably more problematic than any. The implications of public opinion measurement for democracy, however, are considerably more problematic than any such fairy tales allow. Dewey's description of America as a society in which public sentiment was being systematically manufactured became,
Depends on very life of free expression, Einstein common sense, then by this newly applied technique of giving it a voice, we see the points of true representation, of true and representative cross-section. The prime requisite of an effective democracy is that it must get at some satisfactory balance between all kinds of people. The implications of a public opinion measurement of democracy, however, are considerably more problematic than such any fairy tales allow. Dewey describes in America as a society in which public sentiment was being systematically manufactured became in many ways only more pertinent to the age of polling. Again, it's like, what do you do? To have a democracy, you need to have a society that at the best as possible, representing everyone. But then by doing that, it also creates a more considerably worse problem that attacks democracy and how it functions, which is the society sentiment being systematically manufactured. That's the problem. That's the issues we find ourselves in today, and like besides maybe like downscaling how big governments are, like breaking things up into a lot more regional. I don't know. That's like super radical too. Like I'm not even like vouching for that. I'm just like spitballing here, but like without like with how big these systems have gotten and how they can't fail. And I'm not talking about banks. I'm talking about governments too, in our capitalist society in general. How everything how interweaved it is in our society. This structure, this interweaving structure, it cannot fail, and but at the same time, it's also creating, uh, you know, what was this? What would it say? Public sentiment being systematically manufactured. Well, also in the pursuit of hmm. well, also in the pursuit of trying to have representation for what do I say? How do I say it? To get to a satisfactory balance between all kinds of people. The only way I can see that is by also, I don't know if it's like any like government implications you could do, but like if society itself can come to a lot more understanding and common ground, then democracy would work better as well. That would also resolve the issue, I guess. But that's kind of difficult.
In many ways, only more pertinent in the age of polling. Beyond measuring public opinion, polls were also powerful tools for misrepresenting, even forging, public opinion. One aspect of polling that threw Sherrington's ideology into question was the method by which samples were gathered and organized. Public opinion measurement, in its quest for useful demographic categories, also served to reproduce and fortify non-democratic tendencies that persisted in the society at large. This contradiction is apparent in Roper's account of how population samples were routinely categorized for the Fortune magazine surveys. OURS is a sliding scale. The population was analyzed, he explained, according to economic status. Roper then went on to itemize the breakdown.
Oh!
J1SSL
I
changing
said
reader
everything
1CS of
it
persuasion.
connects earlier. This is what people are talking about a little bit with like how capitalism's a big issue that has tried with a bunch of other issues, like global warming, for example, in other ways, right? How population samples were routinely categorized for the Fortune magazine surveys is a sliding scale. Population was analyzed, he explained, according to economic status. You know, at the top are the R's who might be called prosperous. Following these, he described the B's, the upper middle class, the C's, the lower middle class, D's of the poor or the poor's. Repeatedly, Roper support that this scale was applied only to survey of the white population in racism. Depending on the nature of the study being conducted, he wrote, we sometimes have a fifth group. I said racism before. We have a fifth group, the N group, composed of I'm not sure if it isn't like like the full on derogatory one is composed of Negroes. I'm not sure if that's like bad or not. I'm not saying obviously, so it's not like intentionally bad. But I'm not sure if like terms and service reasons, if I can, even for like discussing inside a very leftist like historical look at like how this injustice was done. I'm not sure if terms of service allow me to, but I guess I already said it anyway. So, a society torn by institutional racism, in which many African Americans did not enjoy the right to citizenship, classifications used in Roper's poll only fortified this tendency. It's all about power at the end of the day, right? You're trying to get on top, and in doing so, you might also try to put people below you, and then that's kind of like not good at all. It's pretty bad. I'm not saying you can't like strive to be like great at something, right? But then yeah, I guess that's what it should be for doing greatness, not for power. And by power, I mean like selfish power, right? You can be like a politician and want to like change stuff and understanding you're going for a position of power while not striving, for that to be your happiness. Your happiness would be the change you've done on the government, obviously, as well. Anyways, we get on some side tangents that aren't really related.
At the top are the R's, who might also be called the prosperous. Following these, he described the B's, the upper middle class, the C's, the lower middles, and the D's, or the poor. Revealingly, Roper reported that this scale was applied only to surveys of the white population. Depending on the nature of the study being conducted, he wrote, we sometimes have a fifth group, N, composed of Negroes. A society torn by institutional racism, in which many African Americans did not enjoy the rights of citizenship. The classifications used in the Roper poll only fortified this tendency. Though differences among whites were distinguished by a hierarchy of economic status, African Americans were analyzed only in terms of race. In an eloquent instance of the ability of polling to validate injustice and of its limited utility as a democratizing device, the American population was seen simply as A, B, C, D, and N. Another problem with public opinion measurement as an instrument of democracy was
that were rich, right? Hey, can you fuck off from talking about how mass ingestion is threatening the linchpin to democracy? Okay? Kind of rude. Also need to trade. Saw filter out there, but excuse me. Wasn't spawned in. He must have been spawned outside last time this chunk was loaded. And we eat. We need to get some more carrots.
its inability to gather data without, at the same time, influencing the ways that the data would turn out. Early in his career, Link acknowledged that the way questions were posed would have a decisive impact on the answers that a pollster received. The form of a question, he wrote, has much to do with the answers obtained. How precarious is this matter of measuring public opinion, he conceded. 30 Implicit within Link's admission was the suggestion that carefully worded questions could be crafted in order to elicit any desired response. Polls could be used as evidence of public support or outrage by which any private concern might justify itself as acting in the public interest. With large corporations serving as the most profitable clients of the survey research industry, as has continued to be the case since the 20s, the imprimatur of public opinion polls has been routinely exploited to support a wide variety of business agendas. This issue of who controls the polling apparatus disturbed a number of contemporaneous observers. Psychologist Leonard Dubé, for example, rejected polling as almost worthless as a contribution to a systematic science, insofar as it was primarily employed by private industry to exploit public desires for commercial gain. 31 Robert
Capitalism's
Lind,
not bad,
a prominent
and
American sociologist, wrote that a
socialism
major
leads
barrier
to the
to
USSR, which is the dictatorship. It's bad, man. You know, like I know I'm really hard on but like this is the arguments that are being like made, right? You know, people are like, well, you're dumb because capitalism obviously is succeeding. Well, no, this is a pretty strong argument for a big flaw of capitalism. To be fair, it's exploring how through through the intent of trying to make more sales, using marketing and statistics and polling, and also through pulling on using like psychological trickery to an extent, like using tricks to influence you, to be more suggestive to you, to make you want to buy that, when in reality, without that suggestion you might not have bought it, right? That they're literally manipulating you. This is a major assault of that pursuit of trying to make more sales, make more money, with through hard work, through hard work and manipulation, uh, pushing yourself up higher in the system. And people even do that with the best intentions. Even I felt like that. Uh, to a while, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna work hard and make a good business, and just treat everyone right, and just try to work hard. But it's not very, yeah, accurate. Sorry. Kind of like how we're exploiting these villagers right here for for XP and money. I gotta read these. Hi there. You have nether warts? Yes. Oh, actually, I want that back. Can I have that back? It's not big idea. It's not that big a deal, but like, oh no, is he gonna get out? Thank you. You back down? You. Just want to make sure it's doing it right. Okay. You just put some of this back. What was in there? Is this regular bottle? I think. Yeah. Regular bot tails. My my tools almost fully repaired. If you know what I mean. uh,
A socially constructive use of public opinion polls is that these polls are in private hands for private profit. 32. If this was the public, it was. Modern pipelines of persuasion. 89.1r. Immorally the public is filtered through the interests and imperatives business enterprises. DYND also voiced concern about the way polls themselves had attained the status of news. Reported on in newspapers or cited on .e-radio, public opinion polls were becoming statistical applause acts, useful manipulative devices on the level of propaganda, for encouraging those on the fence to join the crowd. Public opinion ills, DYND wrote, were an example of democracy working in verse. Rather than serving to communicate and empower public opinion polls were being used to manufacture and package one BLIC opinion. They operate actually to confirm the citizens' false sense of security in totaling up what the majority think.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Gotta go to spit heat out here. Calm down. What did it say? Rather than serving to communicate and empower the public opinion, opinion polls were being used to manufacture and package public opinion. Yeah, they operate actually to confirm the citizens' false security of tolling up what the majority think. A false sense of public being boss that encourages operates to narcoticize public awareness of seriousness of problems and drastic social changes made contemporary situations require. Fuck. This is like written like in the 1930s, dude. We're seeing like we're seeing this like play out so hard today. It's crazy. It's fucking nuts. Oh my god. Okay, let's get to this call again.
He false sense of the public's being boss that they encourage operates to narcotize public awareness of the seriousness of problems and of the drastic social changes many contemporary situations require. 33. Writing in the Annals of the American Academic Amy of Political and 1 EIAL Science in 1935, Malcolm M. Willey voiced similar anxieties the ways that the findings of polls were coming to constitute a typical and uniquely effective form of modern propaganda. An individual may be moved to action through repetition, as, for example, in advertising, but his action is made more certain if he is made to realize that thousands, even millions, of others are thinking and feeling as he himself does. Herein lies the importance of the contemporary communication network. It not only carries its symbols to the individual, it also impresses upon him a sense of numbers. 34. LLS produced coldly mathematical information that, at the same exerted a profoundly emotional influence. Insofar as Wilfred Otters heard
Want that back, bitch. I know that's gonna be my fuck. Okay. All my emeralds back. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch, get back down there. You son of a bitch, get back down there. There we go. Then stay there. Anyways. Maybe I'll send the polls back. Both jumping on two little villagers jumping on the bed. One stole my emeralds and lost his head. I don't know. It's a little more demented. Made up. From what actually happened in the situation. Which is that I threw a man by accident. Okay, we're fully repaired. No! You son of a bitch. Oh, you son of a bitch. Okay. You gotta act fast. There's no signs here, did I? Did I steal signs? Put these back. Actually, wasn't that bad, though. Going pretty fast. I'll be back, villagers. Level 47. Let's see if I need to repair any tools or anything like that. Fuck you. Yeah, the llama will take care of it. Okay. Anyways, let's. Did I change the game? It's in the game. Yeah, I did. Okay.
Instinct continued to serve as a significant rudiment human behavior. Polls offered a numerical herd with which one might identify, a subliminal mental magnet for deciding what to think td how to behave. FIGOL_GHANGING rhetorics of persuasion. The concerns voiced earlier regarding the manipulative potential of survey research continue to resonate. Whether the public opinion apparatus enhances or diminishes the meaning of democracy is still an inescapable question. FBR mounting legion of public relations and propaganda specialists during the 1920s and 1930s, however, an invaluable instrument had been devised, one that served them in two distinct ways. First, the obsessive mining and measuring of public attitudes, opinion polling and marketing surveys were transforming the idea of public opinion into a valuable resource for systematic commercial and political exploitation. The public was becoming a commodity. Its opinions were being packaged and sold to the highest bidder. Coincidentally, as exemplified in Roper's discourse on sampling methods, those sectors of the population whose race or amount of disposable income was not seen as socially, commercially, or politically desirable were only further marginalized or rendered incommunicado in the polls. Second, for a brotherhood of propagandists continually on the lookout for new channels of influence, polls themselves were becoming an expressive, yet enigmatic, medium of persuasion. With numerical eloquence, they provided an often confused population with silent civic lessons. In the results of polls, a modern public crooned face-to-face with itself or a numerical facsimile thereof and was offered wordless counsel on what or how to think. The measurement of public opinion and its manufacture were becoming less and less distinguishable. In a 1984 article, Marvin Olasky, a historian of public relations, astutely characterized Bernays as one of the first of his profession to realize fully that American 20th century liberalism would be increasingly based on social control posing as democracy, and would be desperate to learn all the opportunities for social control that it could. 35.
No,
In the
that didn't.
20s and 30s,
Not true.
the expansion of a commercial media system and the statistical pageantry of opinion polling
Right?
helped to
That's
transform.
True. Right? That's not true. Can't be true. It's a big oof. Or it's big. What's the Minecraft one? Is it oof? Here, sheep. Make love. Oh, I got XP from that. I forgot. I feel like I got less seeds. No, there's more seeds in my inventory. Also, I can eat some of this bread. We'll take some meat with us too, sure. Not too many though. Actually, maybe I'll take some of these beetroot seeds back. Trying to get like a full stack here.
Bernays' prophetic intuition into a generic feature of contemporary American life. Opportunities for democratic social control were only ripening.
Or at least end of the chapter. So yeah, that's great. That was a really good one. But yeah, just final thoughts. Mass suggestion is bad. It is a hard problem, right? With how big democracy's gotten and how unified everything has gotten. It's like our country is like I think it has like a lot of regional differences, and through mass suggestion, it's been kind of stifled to an extent to be like only one or two ideals, and then like demonizing the other side too. It's creating this best system. I'm not really giving it good words. I'm also just kind of like just it's such a complex issue. I feel like you need to like cover different bits of it at a time, right? And also, I'm just tired. But like, yeah, so I got some of this shit back. But like, yeah, like like how I'm trying to go back to what I was saying before. Like, what is the solution then? Because the problem is that during like the 20s and 30s, especially with like rise of radio, with news outlets homogenizing instead of being like more regional, where editors had to like consult with one another, uh, then creating to then becoming, I should say, uh, more like a franchise, right? Where like, and then when there's a central organization that's a central message that's being propagated outwards towards like um, the more local stations, right? Uh, which then homogenizes like ideals. Then through mass suggestion, they were talking about like how opinion polls are just kind of then the data is like shown to is used to manipulate show like well here's what the populace thinks, and then slowly converting opinion over time to where now things are so polarized and ideas not very diverse at all, to where free thinking's not really happening, right? At least in our country. Uh, we're not well informed because we're told like, oh, this is what the public thinks, or we're given like these facts that can be easily manipulated, and or even like on like smaller levels, like people will use like these manipulative tactics of suggestion, right, to try to make their argument seem legit using logical fallacies and everything else. Uh, but yeah, like it's like the effects have happened already so much that we're kind of like in this weird situation where we're just like seeing it play. Like this is the result. Today where we are, I think it's kind of the result of what they're talking about here. What was going to happen. Uh, that the populace become a lot less informed and be able to make informed decisions and have understanding of the social. What was it said earlier? Yeah, they operate actually to confirm a citizen's false sense of security and totaling up what the majority think. This false sense of the public being boss that they encourage operators to narcoticize the public awareness of seriousness of problems and of the drastic social changes made contemporary situations require. Right? again, I think like a great example of this was like Donald Trump in the 2020 election being like, well, mailing is done physically. It can't be safe. You should really check these the mail ballots because it might it could actually be a threat to democracy. And I think that's how the Democrats actually are gonna. If the Democrats were going to rig an election, that's how they would probably do it, right? And then saying that the election was rigged once he for sure lost, right? It's that's a really good example of that kind of suggestion being used. So yeah, that's final thoughts on that. Let's get on to some less harrowing things. What is this? Yeah. For a response for that, we'll do that. Well, I got other readings to do that are kind of related to that, I guess, but they're a lot shorter. What am I gonna watch next? I'm sorry. I'll pay you in a second. Just calm down. Oh, wait, he's probably like a refresh. There's nothing to watch. Let's just find some music. Let's go in Discord. Turn that back on. Oh, don't open Spotify up on my main monitor, please. That'd be great. Didn't, but you're gonna anyways. Yep, but move! But away. Let's see my shit. Okay. All right. What should I do here? Okay. I gotta use Discord. Play. Control V. I have to join the voice channel first. And you do dot this. What? Oh, there we go. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. God damn it. Deafen myself. Mute myself. I don't want to hear on this computer. I will listen to her on my Discord. Yo! Whoa, 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 whoa. Fuck. Deafen. Fuck. Okay, I think we're good now. I hope. What was this one? It's a good one. Then we'll put on shuffle. We'll put on shuffle. So I had to go through a few messages. Okay. Let's get onto Discord. I should be good now. Okay, this works. So. No, no, no. I gotta hear some of these songs. It's awkward. I had some old songs that were in my life playlist I had to get rid of. You know when you just like, for one, are younger and had songs and taste change, but also like, when you just have songs in your playlist you just like skip over like right away instead of just like getting rid of them. That's that. I get that. These are actually kind of handy. I'm just gonna keep this in here. Keep this in here too. Wow. I'll just leave this here because I don't want to get started. I'm actually mining. We've been doing literally nothing for like the hour except like leveling up my weapons. And by weapons I mean tools, and by leveling up I mean repairing. Ha, bitch. Oh, hi. Hi from Brazil. I'm nice to meet you. Oh wait, I am from Brazil. That's awesome. Sorry, I just saw this. I hope you're still here. I'm from the U.S. But I think we're like. I'm trying to think of like the right way to say this, but like, what's going on with your president? Are you guys like still like reeling from like a bunch of like government corruption and stuff? Or like at least like improper action on coronavirus? Hello, viewer again. Tell me more about yourself, Maya. What do you want to talk about? This is great going on down there, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm just gonna let the bee despawn. Not my problem right now. Let me I will translate this. We're gonna communicate. One moment here. Oh, you know what? Hold up something else too real quick. There we go. Okay. And then next. Brazil to English. Why does that look? It's to me for some reason it looks like German, but it probably is. It's Portuguese. You speak Portuguese in Brazil? I didn't know that. I was like, how? Oh God, I'm such an American. Oh, you're in German. Ah, yeah, okay. Can you understand me? Because I can also use my translator to say stuff back. I'll say that. That does still was looking like German. I was like, I don't want to be offensive and be like, is that German when it was actually some other language? But like, yeah. To the U.S. or Germany? Because I don't know much about Germany. To the U.S. it's um yeah. I mean, things are kind of a little bit tense right now. But I will say maybe compared to Brazil, it might be better. At least when it comes to coronavirus response to a small extent. Um, you know, talk about politics, or you know, do and get prepared for a fight. But what I will say is that it's a lot of cool people. I mean, like, you know, we're, you know, like the rest of the world trying to figure stuff out here, but you know, we do have like, I don't know. I've been shaded lately, right? I've been a little bit shaded with like how, with like neoliberalism and stuff. So it's kind of like where we are right now. And, yeah. Like literally, I was just like probably like half an hour ago talking about how mass media is using suggestion to influence us, which is threatening the legitimate democracy, which is a well-formed populace. Yeah, I can. I realized I was talking fast too, and I'm sorry. That part doesn't help. For Bolsonaro. Oh God. Wait, Bolsonaro's the. Oh no. What did I say? What did I say? Al Bolsonaro. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Let's Al Bolsonaro. That's who am I? Who am I? Is this who I think it is? Yeah! Fucking yeah, man! Here, we're about to talk. We're gonna do some Brazilian politics up in this bitch. All right, we're gonna do some light Brazilian politics. For Bolsonaro, for Bolsonaro, for Bolsonaro. Yes, yes, sir. Or I guess yes, ma'am in this case, because her name's Maya, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay, let me hold up 1 second here. I'm gonna get something pulled up here. Okay, hold up.
Earth.
LDR. Yeah, dude. Like I've always been fucking up pretty bad. Let me pull up some of the stuff I've been hearing. Uh. This from a year ago, but still.
Hello,
Resonates.
and welcome to another TLD
Let me pull it up real quick.
video. With the virus continuing to spread around the world, nearly all countries have been negatively impacted by the virus, with cases ballooning rapidly in a number of countries. Of particular note, Brazil. Having seemingly come from nowhere, Brazil now has one of the highest cases in the world. So in this video, we're going to explain what exactly happened, and how Brazil found itself in the position it does now. It's been a few weeks since we last mentioned it, so let's shout out a classic. As regular viewers know, we make a whole bunch of pin badges featuring our countries with shoes design, and we have a whole load
was
of
stabbed in the
designs,
stomach?
including Brazil. In fact, the
No
profits
way!
from the
That's
Brazilian
fucking
badge
nuts!
goes to WWF's work to preserve the Amazon rainforest. Check out that
Hold on.
badge and all of the other
Okay, I
merch
need to
we
think,
have by
but I'm
clicking
gonna
the
check
link
this out.
in the
He
description.
was stabbed?
First things first, let's look at Brazil's
No
monumental
way.
rise. Having registered their first death from the virus on the 16th of March, within just 2 months, they reached 15,662 deaths. And according to the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, at the time of recording, they currently
ago.
stand at 614,941 cases
June 5th, 2020.
and 34,021 deaths. In fact, to illustrate the speed at which Brazil's situation declined, let's take a look at the bar chart graphic we use in our videos quite a lot. Here you can see the total death toll of the 10 most affected countries, and you'll notice that Brazil is nowhere to be seen on the graph. That is until the end of April, when Brazil
You didn't
enters
die,
the
ha,
9th place,
damn.
before
Yo, I'm
almost
sorry, man.
immediately
Poor woman.
racing up
Poor
the
man.
graph and landing itself in 3rd place. If you want to find out more about how countries compare and see the
Look at
full
this.
bar chart rates, then click the link to the video on that in the description. So, what's truly behind all of the 10 most affected countries?
Not even in this.
And you'll notice that Brazil is nowhere to be seen on the graph. That is until the end of April, when Brazil enters in 9th place, before almost immediately racing up the graph
Look at
and
that.
landing itself in 3rd place. If you want to find out more about how countries compare and see the full bar chart rates, then click the link to the video on
That's
that
there,
in the description.
right there. That's so bad.
So, what's truly behind Brazil's explosion in cases? In part, it's been due to the deliberate decision to put Brazil's economy at the forefront of any plan.
Oh,
and
you know, that's a good
perceived
point.
downplaying of the virus.
Basically, right now, what they've said is that big. Wait, can you not hear it?
Towards the beginning of the
No, they
crisis,
can. It's just understandable. It's I speak fast. You know, it's like understandable why might not be might have to be trouble understanding it. But yeah, you know, basically, so far COVID really spiked up in Brazil. That's the recap so far.
Brazil's president, Jair Bolsonaro, consistently played
that's the
down
guy.
the potency of the
That's the
virus,
guy that got stabbed,
claiming it to be a little flu that has to be faced realistically.
and that's bullshit.
But when
It
asked
was
by
not faced
journalists
realistically
beginning
at
of
all.
May about the rapidly rising cases of the virus, when deaths stood at just over 5,000, Bolsonaro responded, "So what? What do you want me to do?" And that, "My name's Messiah, but I can't work miracles." But it would appear that many, rightly or wrongly, attribute
Yeah. Don't you like using like a translator of some sorts on me? That's kind of cool, actually. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't do anything. Never mind. But basically, so far what he said was it's a little flu that has to be faced realistically. You know, which isn't really realistic. What else did he say?
faced realistically. But when asked by journalists at the beginning of May about the rapidly rising cases of the virus, when
Yeah,
deaths stood at just over 5,000, Bolsonaro responded, "So what? What do you..."
This is the best part, right? So when cases started to spike up in Brazil, he said when journalists questioned on him about this, the fact that cases were rising in Brazil, like right when this was starting, when they had 5,000 cases instead of like 600,000 cases, they were like his response was, "So what? What do you want me to do? It's not my problem. It's just a little flu, man. What do you want me to do about this?"
do you want me to do? And that, "My name's Messiah, but I can't work miracles."
My name is Messiah, but I can't work miracles.
But it would appear that many, rightly or wrongly, attribute most of Brazil's failures down to Bolsonaro. The president has been very active in opposing the lockdowns implemented by states across Brazil. Throughout the crisis, his administration has refused to endorse stay-at-home
Oh, he
orders,
was stabbed in
with
2008.
Bolsonaro even
So
holding
he's
rallies
been
in
hated for like a while. I didn't know this. That's nuts. I didn't know that. He is the problem still. It does seem like it. Like I think they're about to like talk about like some of like the procedures he's done. You know, I'm actually just gonna get off the server for a second, and then I'm gonna pull this video up. I don't really care if screen capping and doing screen cap of screen cap. Except I do care about that. That doesn't really look like how I wanted it to. So I'm actually gonna turn off this cam. Sure, that works.
an attempt to convince people that everything is fine.
So what do you do?
Refused to endorse the lockdowns implemented by states across Brazil. Throughout the crisis, his administration has refused to endorse stay-at-home orders, with
Refused to
Bolsonaro
endorse
even
stay-at-home
holding
measures.
rallies in an attempt to convince people that everything is fine.
Holding rallies.
Rallies
It's everything
in
is
which
fine. Which rallies which cause spread of coronavirus.
Bolsonaro
Okay,
is on
that's two.
horseback
Wait, what?
to convince people that everything is fine. Rallies in which Bolsonaro is on horseback.
He came in on horseback. Okay, so one, he didn't endorse the state level lockdowns that are happening in Brazil. Second, he had rallies which spread coronavirus, trying to persuade everyone it was fine. Third, at these rallies, he came in on horse.
This is in stark contrast to the rest of the world, where most countries have implemented some sort of lockdown in an attempt to flatten the curve. What is particularly concerning, and lies at the heart of how the rapid spread of the virus, relates to favelas. As published in the Lancet Medical Journal, about 13 million Brazilians live in favelas.
Here, I'm going to read this out loud. About 13 million Brazilians live within favelas, often with more than 3 people per room and little access to clean water. Physical distancing and hygiene recommendations are nearly impossible to follow in this environment. Many favelas have organized themselves to implement measures as best as possible. This is from a medical journal, I think called the Lancet Medical Journal. Yeah, the Lancet Medical Journal.
In the Lancet Medical Journal, about 13 million Brazilians live in favelas, often with more than 3 people per room and little access to clean water. Physical distancing and hygiene recommendations are near impossible to follow in these environments. Many favelas have organized themselves to implement measures as best as possible, with the very same editorial concluding with some gravity. Leadership at the highest level of government is crucial in quickly averting the worst outcome of this pandemic, as is
Leadership at the highest level of government is crucial in quickly averting the worst outcomes of this pandemic, as is evident from other countries. You know, this is again from that medical journal. I can put on subtitles, definitely. I wasn't sure if they would help. Here, I'm gonna go back a little bit.
lockdown in an attempt.
Now, I can't do, or maybe there is a way. Can I get like a? I can't put subtitles in Portuguese. I'm not. Just subtitles. What are these called again? Google widgets things or whatever. Not widgets, but they're extensions. Subtitles extension. Let's see that. Give me one more moment here.
To flatten the curve. What is particularly concerning, and lies at the heart of some of the rapid
I don't know how to spell Portuguese. No. That's not how you spell Portuguese. I'm just gonna do port. Can I cancel this? Can I refresh this? I'm just gonna refresh this.
Hello and welcome.
Okay, how do you spell Portuguese? I'm just gonna use this. This would be way easier. Okay, give it a second here. Thank you. Appreciate it, Maya. I'm just not very smart. English wasn't my strong suit. I was a weird kid. I liked more like history and science. You know, like usually it's like history and English or like science and math. I was quirky, man. I'm quirky like that. I like history and science because I'm quirky. But yeah, English ain't my was not my literacy was not my strong suit. Ain't exactly like terrible at it, but could be a lot better. Candice? Okay, hold on. I'm gonna look for another extension here, but we're gonna find one though. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get this for sure. Where did it go? It's called O. Did you like the Bolsonaro? I like I found it really funny that he came in on horse. That is just so audacious. It's terrible.
Welcome to another TLDR video. With the virus continuing to
Wait, is this working now? See, no, it doesn't work like that. Okay. Remove from Chrome. Yes. I don't want that one. Here, I think this might work for now. This looks pretty legit, though. Where is P?
spread around the world, nearly all countries have been negatively impacted by the virus, with cases ballooning rapidly in a number of countries. Of particular note, Brazil. Having seemingly come from nowhere, Brazil now has one of the highest case rates in the world. So in this video, we're going to explain what exactly happened, and how Brazil...
Why aren't you working?
Hello and welcome to another TLDR video. With the virus continuing to spread around the world, nearly all countries have been negatively impacted by the virus, with cases ballooning rapidly in a number of countries. Of particular note, Brazil. Having come from nowhere, Brazil now has one of the highest case rates in the world. So in this video, we're going to explain what exactly happened, and how Brazil found itself in the position.
Here, okay, one more time. We're good.
Hello,
We're good.
welcome to another TLDR video.
We got it.
With the virus continuing to spread around the world, nearly all countries have been negatively impacted by the virus, with cases ballooning rapidly in a number of countries. Of particular note, Brazil. Having seemingly come from nowhere, Brazil now has one of the highest case rates in the world. So in this video, we're going to explain what exactly happened, and how Brazil found itself in the position it does now. It's been a few weeks since we last mentioned it, so let's shout out a classic. As regular viewers know, we make a whole bunch of pin badges featuring our countries with shoes design, and we have a whole load of different designs, including Brazil. In fact, the profits from that Brazilian badge go to WWF's work to preserve the Amazon rainforest. Check out that badge and all of the other merch we
It's
have
also funny
by
too, because
clicking
like
the link
I know
in the
another big
description.
issue is like
First things first, let's look
the
at
rainforest
Brazil's
being cut down more to
monumental
make more
rise.
room for
Having registered their first death from the virus on the
Like,
16th of March, within
building
just 2
infrastructure and
months,
stuff.
they reached 15,662 deaths. And according to the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, at the time of recording, they currently
No
stand
problem.
at 614,941 cases.
And this is just for reference. Earlier, when the journalists were kind of starting to question him, that was at the 5,000 mark of reported cases, and he was like, what do you expect me to do about it?
And 34,021 deaths. In fact, to illustrate the speed at which Brazil's situation declined, let's take a look at the bar chart graphic we use in our videos quite a lot. Here you can see the total death toll of the 10 most affected countries, and you'll notice that Brazil is nowhere to be seen on the graph. That is until the end of April, when Brazil enters in 9th place, before almost immediately racing up the graph and landing itself in 3rd place. If you want to find out more about how countries compare and see the full bar chart rates, then click the link to the video on that in the description. So, what's truly behind Brazil's explosion in cases? In part, it's been due to the deliberate decision to put Brazil's economy at the forefront of any plan, and the perceived downplaying of the virus. Towards the beginning of the crisis,
man.
Brazil's president...
That's, we had a little bit of that in America, too, with Trump. So, I know you're moving here, Maya. I'm sure you'll feel right at home. I'm sure you'll feel right at home.
Jair Bolsonaro
Oh,
consistently played down the potency of the virus, claiming it to be a little flu that has to be faced realistically. But when asked by journalists at the beginning of May about the rapidly rising cases of the virus, when deaths stood at just over 5,000, Bolsonaro responded, "So what? What do you want me to do?" And that, "My name's Messiah, but I can't work miracles."
I can't believe that line, by the way. That's just so audacious as well. My name might be Messiah, but I can't work miracles. I mean, like, what do you want me to do about it? I'm just your government leader. I'm just your representative for the country. Oh my fucking god. He is such a dirtbag. I'm sorry. It is just a disappointment. I don't blame you. I do understand your anger. That is so bad.
Wrongly attribute most of Brazil's failures down to Bolsonaro. The president has been very active in opposing the lockdowns implemented by states across Brazil.
Big mistake one.
Throughout the crisis, his administration has refused to endorse stay-at-home orders, with Bolsonaro even...
Yeah, I felt that way about Trump, but, like, politics has gotten, like, so... We were talking about this earlier, like, with, Massachusetts playing such an effect and being important to, political campaigning or marketing or whatever else, Massachusetts is used through, it's kind of gotten to the point where the populace isn't well informed. They can't make well informed decisions. And the linchpin to a democracy, as was stated earlier in this reading, here, I'll pull it up. I'll see if I can pull it up. It's like more at the top here. But the linchpin of democracy is a well-informed public. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment here. Oh yeah, I'll just read this instead. This kind of get across the same point. Maybe it was up here. widespread discussion about the ways and means of controlling public opinion. He concluded, testifies to the collapse of traditional species of democratic romanticism and a rise of the dictatorial habit of mind. In the face of troublesome democratic ambitions that have been mounting for more than a century, corporate and government leaders look to an increasingly sophisticated opinion-molding apparatus as their tool of first resort. Propaganda, Laszlo wrote in his incisive candor, is the concession of willfulness of the age. If a mass will be free from chains of iron, it must accept its chains of silver. It will not love, honor, and obey. It must not expect to escape seduction. We live in the greatest exposed flood, and this is in the 1920s and 30s, which we're way more exposed to it now than ever. We live exposed to the greatest flood of mass suggestion that any people have yet experienced. He laminated. So yeah, that's why it's bad. He didn't want to release the coronavirus vaccine. That is a clown face emoji. That's just terrible. Anyways, yeah, let's get back to this
Attempt
asshole.
to convince people that everything is fine. Rallies in which Bolsonaro is on horseback. This is in stark contrast to the rest of the world, where most countries are active in opposing the lockdowns implemented by states across Brazil. Throughout the crisis, his administration has refused to endorse stay-at-home orders, with Bolsonaro even holding rallies in an attempt to convince people that everything is fine. Rallies in which Bolsonaro is on horseback. This is in stark contrast to the rest of the world, where most countries have implemented some sort of lockdown in an attempt to flatten the curve. What is particularly concerning, and lies at the heart of some of the rapid spread of the virus, relates to favelas. As published in the Lancet Medical Journal, about 13 million Brazilians live in favelas, often with more than 3 people per room and little access to clean water. Physical distancing and hygiene recommendations are near impossible to follow in these environments. Many favelas have organised themselves to implement measures as best as possible, with the very same editorial concluding with some gravity. Leadership at the highest level of government is crucial in quickly averting the worst outcome of this pandemic, as is evidenced from other countries. In our Brazil series, the authors concluded the challenge is ultimately political, requiring the continuous engagement by Brazilian society as a whole to secure the right of health for all Brazilian people. Brazil as a country needs to come together and give a clear answer to the so what by
Yeah.
the president.
Fuck yeah.
He needs to
This is why-
drastically change his course, or must be the next to go.
And this is why I kind of understand your frustration, Maya, because that's like not happening, right? Yeah, exactly. Like he's still getting voted in, and so I actually really sympathize. And this is something like I have this similar angst too, right? Because like we are still making these mistakes. All we can really do is try to keep pushing for the populace to be more aware that mass suggestion is a thing, and that how manipulated and how built up our ground is on its manipulation. That's the only way that we can kind of like. What was it said earlier? There's something key that was said. Make proper. I'm trying to find the right word. We need to, just hold accountability. We need to be able to be well informed to hold accountability and respond to the nuances of social situations. That's what I'm trying to say. I say social situations. Might be a better word, but yeah. Anyways, let's get back to this.
Bolsonaro has faced criticism from state governors too. The governor of the state of Sao Paulo said there is no leadership. President Bolsonaro is not leading Brazil at such a serious and difficult time. He's acting as an army captain who has no knowledge, no scientific experience in health or public health, who works according to what he thinks, on assumptions and personal desires, on a subject very serious because it has to do with people's lives. Professor Anthony Pereira, director at King's College London's Brazil Institute, believes that Bolsonaro's strategy is an electorally focused one. I think his strategy is to try and play the blame game, like what Donald Trump is doing in the United States, playing the governors off against the rest of the population. It's so that he
Yeah.
can say if he gets to 2022 and he has chances for re-election, I know the economy is bad, but that's because of the governors.
They said they were going to get together and take another stab. I was like, clown face emoji. This is funny. Also, yeah, what was kind of being said there with like similar politics to like what's going on with Trump in America, pitting people against each other. This is something we've kind of been. It's been escalating a lot, right? These tactics of like pitting each other against each other. It's been escalating a lot more over like the last like few years. I feel like, to be fair, it could just be from like a young perspective and like just like seeing it like escalate over time, just like through my life. Like back in 2012, when like Republicans were like gerrymandering, like doing kind of like weird tactics to block Barack Obama's legislation, just kind of for their own personal interest, kind of like looking back and growing up with that, and then like seeing how that's escalated with like in recent history. There's just been like major escalations of just like pitting governors and the people against each other and doing like weird tactics that don't really unite us. It just instead polarizes us more.
Former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, commonly known as Lula, who was barred from running against Bolsonaro in the 2018 general election,
What?
spoke to The Guardian when Brazil's death toll stood at 1,924.
I remember this
At the
guy.
time, he branded Bolsonaro's actions as grotesque,
He's got some
and
weird
that it's
history too,
natural that
but
a portion of
he's more
society
light.
doesn't understand the need to stay at home or how serious this is, especially when the President of the Republic is a troglodyte who says it's just a little flu, and in effect called for his impeachment. If Bolsonaro continues to commit crimes of responsibility and trying to lead
Next week,
society
Bolsonaro
to
will
the
no longer be my
slaughterhouse,
president.
I think institutions will need to find a way of sorting.
Oh yeah, because you're moving. Instead, you're gonna have Joe Biden, which is, I guess probably better than Bolsonaro in this case. I will say Joe Biden seems to be better than Bolsonaro. So I guess you're stepping up. You're leveling up, babe. Keep it up.
Bolsonaro out, and that will mean you'll have to have an impeachment. It's no secret as well that Bolsonaro hasn't gelled well with his health ministers during the crisis. Luiz Henrique Mandetta was Brazil's health minister, and he was fired by President Bolsonaro for urging people to observe social distancing and stay indoors.
Like, imagine being that much
Mandetta has
people.
since, talking to BBC's Hard Talk, acknowledged Brazil underestimated the spread potential of the virus during the very beginning of the outbreak, likening it to SARS in 2002, and only realizing the gravity of the situation when it was too late.
It seemed to us here that the virus would be what we call here a heavy virus, a virus that didn't have much ability to really spread around. It seemed much more like a SARS in 2002 than a virus that would be so capable of spreading. But when we saw Italy, when we saw France, when we saw Spain, when we saw England, and then we paid attention to the United States, and the United States, Mr. Trump was very comfortable on saying that he would take care of that. We really thought that he had some kind of science that would be released soon.
Mandetta's successor, Nelson Teich, resigned after less than a month in the job. Although Teich offered no formal reasoning behind his decision to resign, many suggest it was a result of continued disputes on the handling of the virus, including being kept out of the loop with the plans to reopen the economy, with the final straw being related to the use of chloroquine. It hasn't helped that Brazil's testing numbers have consistently lagged behind those of similarly affected.
Lula is a little worse. He did money laundering. That's, I think, what it was. I think I that's what I heard. I don't know enough about like obviously the political atmosphere of that area. I just heard there was like a little bit of like a resurgence for him because of him like criticizing Bolsonaro, which is kind of easy to do by the looks. So yeah, it doesn't seem that like great of a guy either if he's money laundering. That's pretty fucked.
Countries. This means that Brazil's case count is likely far higher than the numbers are actually showing. This
Oh,
is
that's
not
good.
a good sign for the country moving forward, especially with the high number of rural communities lacking adequate medical staff and equipment. That's not to say that Brazil hasn't made some positive moves during the crisis, though. Given the potential damage that fake news could cause, the Health Ministry has been relatively proactive. A WhatsApp number exists where citizens can forward images and texts they wish to confirm as true or false, and has published a searchable list of false theories, ranging from the beliefs that masks from China have been contaminated with the virus and that coffee prevents catching the virus, to the belief that drinking water every 15 minutes, or when warm and mixed with salt and vinegar, all cure the virus. And for the avoidance of doubt, all of these are false. But the proactive move by the ministry cannot be underestimated, regardless of the broader circumstances. And acts by other government officials to stop fake news are especially important when Facebook had to delete a video of Bolsonaro claiming that hydroxychloroquine was totally effective for treating the virus. So, what do you think of the situation? Is Bolsonaro...
Yeah, I agree. Just
or
wait
are there
until.
other
I mean, like
factors
at the end of the day, all politicians are pretty fucked, right? all of them are playing a bunch of games to better themselves. It seems like there's so many instances that for a while I became numb to it. Yeah, what did it say about coffee? I didn't catch that part.
Salt and vinegar all cure the virus. And for the avoidance of doubt, all of these are false. History has been true or false, and has published a searchable list of false theories, ranging from the beliefs that masks from China have been contaminated with the virus, and that coffee prevents catching the virus.
That would be nice if coffee prevent catching the virus, but that's obviously bullshit. But yeah, I became numb for like a while too. I was like, oh, I didn't really pay much attention to like instances of it happening. I would be like, oh, just politicians, it's in the news all the time, but our government's fine, right? And then when I realized it was like in the news all the time, and that like every politician, it's because it's like a cycle of which politician goes like next or has like their secret revealed, and so many don't get revealed, by the way. A lot of people get away with stuff for years and years and years. Once you kind of start realizing all of that, you're like, oh no, that's what I mean by all politicians are like terrible. Plus my descent into madness.
Virus, to the belief that drinking water every 15 minutes, or when warm and mixed with salt and vinegar, all cure the virus. And for the avoidance of doubt, all of these are false. But the proactive move by the ministry cannot be underestimated, regardless of the broader circumstances. And acts by other government officials to stop fake news are especially important when Facebook had to delete a video of Bolsonaro claiming that hydroxychloroquine
I do like
was
that.
totally effective.
I really do like. As scary as it is that that big companies are like have such sway that they actually affect politics and stuff, and can take down videos and kind of like fight back towards even a president of a country. There's some scariness to that, to think of corporations having that much power and also influence over us as well, without any checks and balances on them. But it is also funny to see like these presidents get like absolutely like like checked, man. Like, oh, you're spouting bullshit. Remove that video. Oh, you're the president of Brazil? Who? I do love that. That part's great.
So, what do you think of the situation?
The situation is
Bolsonaro
terrible.
to
That's
blame?
what I think. Let's watch this next one from 6 months ago. I think he's gonna talk about Lula. Lula's his name, right?
Hello and welcome to another
wait.
TLDR
Hold up. Where's the subtitles at?
global video. While Brazil's next presidential election is still some way away, in recent days the contest has already begun to hot up, with corruption charges against former President Lula quashed. He's more or less been given the green light to run again in 2022. The question being how we've got to this point, why Lula's role in the next election is so important, and whether Lula or Bolsonaro is best positioned to win the presidency.
Yeah. I think he was stabbed again though, because was he stabbed in the stomach recently, or was this like a later thing? Because the articles I saw of Bolsonaro stabbed were from like 2018. Yeah, these are all from like. Well, so was he like stabbed recently? I'm guessing not. Though could see how. I see why he might be stabbed again. Okay, let's go back to this video.
See come October 2022. So, in this video, we'll try and answer those questions. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Doing so helps us out, and it also means that you get updated every time we release a new video. Thank you so much for your support. This story starts all the way back in 2014 with Operation Car Wash. In March 2014, the federal police in Brazil launched an investigation into money laundering. The investigation was originally quite small scale, focusing on black market money dealers using small businesses as fronts to launder cash. One of the first small businesses being targeted by the investigation was a small petrol station. While the station didn't actually have a full-blown car wash, at least according to the BBC, it did have a few hoses, and due to the apt wordplay about cleaning money, the media latched onto it, hence the codename Operation Car Wash. The investigation didn't stop with one car washless petrol station though, because as the federal police began digging into a web of businesses, they noticed a common link. The money launderers had been working on behalf of the Director of Refining and Supply at the state-run oil company Petrobras.
Oh.
With a state company now in the mix, the investigation kicked up a gear, and before long, a system of kickbacks had been uncovered. Executives at Petrobras would overpay contractors for the work they'd done, on the proviso that these contractors kicked back between 1 to 5% of every deal into secret funds.
Oh.
With that money, the Petrobras executives allegedly further kicked back money to the politicians that appointed them, ultimately funding these politicians' election campaigns. And all of this together is a textbook case of bribery.
Yeah.
When the operation finally came to a close in February of this year, there was some
Yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to move by though.
295
It's not much better here though, but this is
arrests, 278 convictions,
Yeah.
and 4.3 billion reais had been captured. But what does this whole thing have to do with Brazil's former president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, more affectionately just known as Lula? Well, Petrobras played a big role in both politics and society. According to The Guardian, more than an eighth of all investments in Brazil came from Petrobras, with the company forming business ties with the likes of Rolls-Royce and Samsung. Due to the wide reach of the company, investigations began looking at whether the former president knew about the kickbacks, and whether he had personally stuck his hands in. After further investigation, Lula was found guilty of corruption and money laundering charges, and sentenced to 9.5 years in prison, having, according to the presiding judge, accepted bribes from an engineering company in the form of a beachfront apartment, so long as they got government contracts. Upon appeal, the sentence was actually increased further to 12 years and 1 month.
I love that! He went on an appeal. Like, can we appeal this? Yeah, sure. 12 more months! Or years, and 1 month added. 24-hour ban. Permanent. That's just funny to me.
With a further 13-year sentence being added on top in February 2019 for corruption. Before this though, Lula was a staggeringly popular president, coming into office as Brazil's first leftist leader for 50 years. This continued throughout his presidency, with Lula leaving office with a government approval rating of 80% and a personal approval rating of 87%. His government was, according to many, responsible for lifting millions of Brazilians out of poverty through the family allowance, as well as increasing Brazil's standing on the international stage, and ensuring continued economic growth.
It's kind of funny, like, how, like, leftist, leftist policy can actually benefit to the society as well as increase economic stability ability.
This overwhelming popularity made him wish to run for presidency yet again in 2018, something that at first looked almost certain to happen. Despite him being in jail at the time, his party, the Workers' Party, nominated him for the 2018 presidential election, with polling at the time suggesting that he had nearly double the support of his other rivals. The issue being that Lula was in jail at the time, and as such there was a lot of discussion about whether he was even eligible to run.
That is nuts.
At one point, the
I mean,
UN
like,
Human Rights Committee...
People like make fun of our election for like, whoa, man, you had a TV star run for president. Like, that's quirky. Bruh, Brazil literally had someone from jail running, or trying to run at least. That is very nuts.
intervened, ruling that Lula could not be disqualified until at least all legal avenues for appeal had been exhausted. Brazil's top electoral court ruled,
I'm not
however,
trying to
that the
excuse
UN's recommendation could not overrule Brazil's
I'm not trying to
state
excuse Lulu's what he did, because obviously what he did was bad, and that's still like a misuse of power, and he deserves to face consequences for that. I don't think that takes away either from the fact that leftist policy can be beneficial towards society. Not from Laura to defend either. Oh my god. What do you mean not from Laura?
which prevents, among other things, those who are being convicted of corruption from standing in elections, a law brought in by Lula himself. So when he was disqualified, the field was wide open for the right-wing populist Bolsonaro to win, which he did. Fast forward to the present day.
That's just funny. Okay? That's just funny. I mean, it's good policy, too. I know I'm, like, yelling and clapping, like, probably being, like, so fucking loud, but, like, that's just hilarious. That's just funny. That's just so good. He's trying to run from run while in jail, and he couldn't because his own law barred him. That's fair, man. That's fair. It's been nice talking to you. I'm gonna finish up this video because I know this, I think it's the last TLDR video or on this subject. But it's been great talking with you.
8th of March 2021, a Supreme Court judge annulled Lula's convictions, ruling that the federal court where Lula had been originally tried didn't have the appropriate jurisdiction,
so he got off on
paving the way
technicality
for the
like Bill
restoration
Cosby.
of his
That's
political
great.
rights. Fashion did not, however, judge the merits of the case, rather saying that the original court didn't have jurisdiction, meaning that Lula could be tried again in Brasilia if the Attorney General so wishes.
He can do that?
Alternatively, the decision could be
He can
overruled
do that in
by the
Brazil?
full Supreme Court. The Attorney General has already publicly stated that they'll be appealing Fashion's ruling, but for now, Lula is eligible to run again next year. In fact, Lula's more than just eligible. He continues to be popular. An IBEC poll prior to the judge's ruling put 50% of people as saying that they'd be definitely or probably likely to vote for Lula, compared to 38% for Bolsonaro. So it looks like if Lula is allowed to run, he could be serious competition for Bolsonaro. This has led some to worry that Bolsonaro could be set for a significant policy change. That's because despite Lula playing down suggestions that he will run again, many see Lula as a genuinely credible threat to Bolsonaro's chances of re-election. Brazil's largest financial paper, Economic Value for one, led with the headline, "Lula is back in the game," with Lula Presidente 2022 quickly doing the rounds on Twitter. Such a groundswell of support has led many to claim that Bolsonaro will now abandon any pretense of economic reform and move further towards the populist right to try and ensure re-election. Alfredo Mendes, managing partner at Arma Capital, told Reuters that with Lula eligible, the chance of this current government going totally towards populism increases even more. something that other commentators are already claiming is happening. An example of this is towards the tail end of February, Bolsonaro removed the chief executive of Petrobras, yes, the same Petrobras at the centre of the car wash operation, in the first of a suite of more interventionist measures. Anyway,
That's
while Lula
great.
isn't formally a populist in the academic sense, he does seem to tick most of the boxes when it comes to charisma. So, having two populist or populist-esque leaders competing for presidency next year, one on the left and one on the right, would make for a truly divisive campaign. In 2018, these divisions were already tense, culminating in the stabbing of Bolsonaro.
Oh, he
In
did get stabbed!
2022, they're set to be even more so. Because
That's
while
great.
Lula has retained a loyal following among some, for others he's become the pure embodiment of corruption that was unearthed in the investigation that barred him from running back in 2018. Bolsonaro, on the other hand, hasn't exactly increased in favourability over the last few years, because Bolsonaro's eldest son himself was implicated and investigated for money laundering,
Oh.
and Bolsonaro's response to the coronavirus
Do you remind me about all
has been seen by
politicians?
some as lackluster. So, going into this potential head-to-head, both sides have loyal supporters and fervent critics. Claudio Couto, a prominent political scientist, stressed back in 2018, Bolsonaro was a sniper firing at everyone. This time, he's going to be a target. With Lula's legal eligibility to run still not 100% nailed down and appeals still on the
Yeah,
cards,
I mean,
only
this is-
time will
this is
tell
like
whether
from
the
6
former
months
president
ago.
will be able to run, and whether Brazil wants Lula back
And
at
it's
the
also,
helm
like,
once more.
This news organization's based in the UK. About news organization. I'm not sure what you would call them. A media organization. They report on news, but they're not like on on the airwaves. More just like on digital media, social media. But yeah, my point is that they probably want to have that perspective. The same.
But what do you think? Is Brazil's clean state law something that all countries should adopt? Should Lula be allowed to run once more?
Or like they wouldn't be able to have insightful perspective as someone actually living there, right?
And moreover, should he become president in 2022? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.
Hold up, I'm trying to find something real quick. Okay, anyways, yeah, nah, I can't find it. Yeah, no, that was some fun stuff. And that's Brazilian politics for you. Oh, here's something from like 3 months ago that kind of covers it. Some more bad stuff.
Country which is home to the world. We just have to hope that the conflict will
I just
come
was
to
talking
an
about like
end
the
and
rainforest
save
earlier.
lives across the region. You might assume that the Environment Minister of Brazil, a country which is home to the world's biggest rainforest, would be working hard to defend their country's nature. But it seems maybe not. Ricardo Salles was forced to resign last week following a police investigation. You might assume that the Environment Minister of Brazil, a country which is home to the world's biggest rainforest, would be working hard to defend their country's nature. But it seems maybe not. Ricardo Salles was forced to resign last week following a police investigation into an illegal wood smuggling ring, which Salles apparently had some involvement in.
An
Unfortunately,
illegal wood
this needs to be
smuggling ring, man. What? I didn't know that was
Unsurprising for
even a
many,
thing.
with President Bolsonaro and his government seemingly unconcerned about environmental issues, with Amazon deforestation increasing by 40% since Salles took his position. Something that's unlikely to change in the near future, with his
And that's
replacement having
devastating and
ties to
scary and
Brazil's
sad
farming
for
lobby.
all of.
Speaking
the
of
globe.
Bolsonaro, let's address his friend to the north, Donald Trump. He might not be as newsworthy as he was a few months ago, on account of the fact he's not president anymore, But,
Roasted.
well, maybe that's about to change. Over the weekend, the former president held his first rally since leaving the Oval, with him describing the Ohio rally as the first rally of the 2022.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to talk about this. But fucking roasted. And I think that's all the content that they have on Brazil. You know, like they're not super based, you know, in Brazil. They don't have, you know, they're not ingrained into society. Or ingrained into society. I don't know what I'm trying to say. They don't have that perspective. That's like I said earlier. Now what do we want to put on next? I think we're literally just gonna put on some more Northern Lion and just do stupid shit, and then maybe put on some music again. Wait, what? Streamlabs? Okay. Wait, hold up. Do I need to do something like this? Well, oh, I know what I need to do. I just need to do this. That should solve it. Okay. That solved that. Now I get my other windows open again. Get these up. Google Chat windows so I can see. And we're back to Minecraft.
Everybody, welcome back. It's Super Auto Pants.
I'm
Having
actually gonna put on music instead. I think I'm gonna save that for later. It's not really the same. You know, let's talk about politics stuff. Like maybe if I was like more burnt out on music, I would consider going to it. But like, whoa, man, it's too me, man. There we go. It's been good, Maya. I hope y'all see you around. It's been good talking about Brazilian politics with you. Hopefully you subscribe or follow so we can discuss Brazilian politics some more one day. Okay, let me what? Okay, maybe if I just do it on my phone, it'll work. Annoying. Okay, let's go to my Spotify app. on my phone speakers? Fuck. It doesn't connect it. I had it working. Oh. There we go. Now it's working. There we go. Yo, I don't want. Can we get a shuffle? There we go. Yo, can you really just fuck off? I hate skeletons. Didn't see that one, bitch. Didn't see that one coming. Really? 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 Yo, if one more fucking skeleton spawns, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm full. I'm gonna lose my shit. You know what? I'm gonna sleep. Fuck all of you. Yeah, it's like a 20-minute song. It's a good song. Skip it. There's a good song. It's like 5 minutes at most. 3:36 even. Great song. Oh, it's not who I thought it was. This ain't good. This is like the most boring stream ever, but it's just so chill. I think it's a free stream anyway. It's not mainstream. It's like 2.5, so I'll wait. Oh, my neck. Y'all leave me alone. gonna get up there? Like salts, I'm guessing. The white stripes? I can't stop breaking down. White stripes are a little underrated, I think. They're obviously like loved by like, you know, like the indie rock scene, but I think overall, I think they're still like a little bit underrated. They've done a lot of cool stuff with music. I'm literally gonna. Oh my god. Okay, I'm rolling a little battery. No, he moved. Oh, this one's running low battery too. Oh. Okay. No. Out of space here. Should have enough space, theoretically. There we go. Alright, really? Leave me alone, please. I'm doing shit. Oh wait, I got the things. Fine, you want to fucking die? Fucking thought, bitch. Where does those? Ow. Okay, we'll be back for you too. Some more deep roots. Get our health up. There. There's the two spots. Okay, I guess now it's time to put on YouTube videos there. Or I could always get an article done. Fuck it. Let's get these articles done. Ah! Where is Bakoku? Papa Loca. Oh, I gotta do a lot of stuff. Almost kind of easy just to play the video. But I must prevail. Refresh. Sign in. Who paid the piper? CIA and the culture of the Cold War. That sounds great. Propaganda by Bernays. A little less intimidating, but still, like, after the context of what we've been reading. And by reading, I mean audio reading. This would bode well. Let's do propaganda chapter 1, then we'll do the CIA one. Save the best one for last. With a really strong opener.
PR Panda. By Edward Bernays. With an introduction by Mark Crispin Miller. / Publishing. Brooklyn, New York. Chapter I. Organizing Chaos. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our MMDS molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. Our invisible governors are, in many cases, unaware of the identity of their fellow members in the inner cabinet. They govern us by their qualities of natural leadership, their ability to supply needed ideas, and by their key position in the social structure. Whatever attitude one chooses toward this condition, it remains a fact that in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of 38 Edward Bernays Propaganda 39 persons, a trifling fraction of our 120 million who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness old social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. It is not usually realized how necessary these invisible governors are to the orderly functioning of our group life. In theory, every citizen may vote for whom he pleases. Our Constitution does not envisage political parties as part of the mechanism of government, and its framers seem not to have pictured to themselves the existence in our national politics of anything like the modern political machine. But the American voters soon found that without organization and direction their individual votes, cast, perhaps, for dozens of hundreds of candidates, would produce nothing but confusion. Invisible government, in the shape of rudimentary political parties, arose almost overnight. Ever since then we have agreed, for the sake of simplicity and practicality, that party machines should narrow clown the field of choice to 2 candidates, or at most 3 or 4. In theory, every citizen makes up his mind on public questions and matters of private conduct. In practice, if all men had to study for themselves the abstruse economic, political, and ethical data involved in every question, they would find it impossible to come to a conclusion without anything. We have voluntarily agreed to let an invisible government sift the data and high-spot the outstanding issues so that our field of choice shall be narrowed to practical proportions. From our leaders and the media they use to reach the public, we accept the evidence.
I need to read this out loud. My brain's melting a little bit. The conscious and intelligent manipulation and organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element of democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government to which is the true ruling power of the country. We are governed, our MMDs molded, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. This is the logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in a manner if they are to live together in a smoothly functioning society. Our invisible governors are, in many cases, unaware of the identity of their fellow members in the inner cabinet. They govern us by the qualities of natural leadership, the ability to supply the need of ideas, and their key position in social structures. Someone's gonna read that and be like, "Oh, he's just trying for his power, man. He need to start pulling on this stuff, right? I need to start using propaganda and take advantage of this this mechanism, this unseen mechanism." Or is organized as some human beings must cooperate in manner. They govern us by their qualities of natural leadership, their ability to supply needed ideas, and their key positions in social structures. Whatever attitude one chooses towards this condition, it remains a fact that almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, or in our social conducts or ethical thinking, are dominated by this relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of the 120 million who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. We are dominated by a relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of the number of 100 to 20 million, who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. If it is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness the social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. It's not unusually realized how necessary these invisible governors are to the orderly function of groups of life. In theory, every citizen may vote for whom they please. Our Constitution does not envisage political parties as part of the mechanism of government, and its framers seem not to have pictured to themselves the existence of our national politics of anything like the modern political machine. But American voters soon found that without organization and direction, their individual votes cast perhaps for dozens of hundreds of candidates would produce nothing but confusion. An invisible government in the shape of rudimentary political parties arose almost overnight. Ever since then, we have agreed, for the sake of simplicity and practicality, that the party machine should narrow clown down the field of choice by 2 candidates. Scary, spooky. every citizen makes up his mind on public questions, a matter of private or at most tier 4. In theory, every citizen makes up his or her mind on public questions and matters of private conduct in private conduct. In practice, if all men had studied for themselves the abstruse economic, political, and ethical data involved in every question, they would find it impossible to come to a conclusion without anything. That's deep. Even by trying to understand everything, it couldn't be impossible to come to a conclusion. We have voluntarily agreed to let an invisible government sift the data and high spot the outstanding issue so that our field of choice may be narrowed to a practical portion. From our leaders and the media they use to reach the public, we accept the evidence and democrations of issues and bearing upon public questions. For some ethical teachers, it be a minister, favorite essayist, or merely prevailing opinion, we accept the standardized codes of social conduct which we conform to most of the time.
And the demarcation of issues bearing upon public question, from some ethical teacher, be it a minister, a favorite essayist, or merely prevailing opinion, we accept a standardized code of social conduct to which we conform most of the time. In theory, everybody buys the best and cheapest commodities offered him on the market. In practice, if everyone went around pricing, and chemically tasting before purchasing, the dozens of soaps or fabrics or brands of bread which are for sale, economic life would be hopelessly jammed. To avoid such confusion,
I actually love that.
society...
That's like the whole... Well, on paper it would work, but in theory it would work, but in practice it wouldn't. That argument used against communism all the time, and then just to be like, use the same argument on capitalism. That's great. I really like that.
consents to have its choice narrowed to ideas and objects brought to its attention through propaganda of all kinds. There is consequently a vast and continuous effort going on to capture our minds in the interest of some policy or commodity or idea. It might be better to have, instead of propaganda and special pleading, committees of wise men who would choose our rulers, dictate our conduct, private and public, and decide upon the best types of clothes for us to wear and the best kinds.
Excuse me? What did they say here? To avoid such confusion, society consents to have. Oh. I see what you're saying. So in practice, if everyone went around pricing and chemically tasting for purchasing a dozen of soap or fabric or brands of breeds which are for sale, economic life would be hopelessly jammed. To avoid such confusion, society's consent to have its choices narrowed to ideas and objects brought to his attention through propagandas of all kinds. Again, society kind of has been consenting for this for a while, but it's been pushed lately against that. Like, should we consent? Is there a better way we can do this? And I don't have an easy answer, but it is an issue that we do need to like continually be trying to change for the better, I guess, to see if we can solve this issue, this problem of having to consent to propaganda of all times, have our scope of view on issues kind of narrowed down to have better understanding of them, right? Then it's also good to like. I feel like it's so easy to use this still to be like, well, the left is promoting misinformation. Then
the food for us to eat. But we have chosen the opposite method, that of open competition. We must find a way to make free competition function with reasonable smoothness. To achieve this, society has consented to permit free competition to be organized by leadership and propaganda. Some of the phenomena of this process are criticized: the manipulation of news, the inflation of personality, and the general ballyhoo by which politicians and commercial products and social ideas are brought to the consciousness of the masses. The instruments by which public opinion is organized and focused may be misused, but such organization and focusing are necessary to orderly life. As civilization has become more complex, and as the 40 Edward Bernays Propaganda 41 need for invisible government has been increasingly.
The instruments by which, go back a little bit. Some of the phenomena of this process are criticized. The manipulation of news, the inflation of personality, and the general ballyhoo of which politicians and commercial products and social ideas are brought to the consciousness of the masses. This instrument by which public opinion is organized and focus may be misused, but such organization and focusing is necessary for orderly life. As civilization has become more complex, and as the need for invisible government has been increasingly demonstrated. See, again, this is kind of what I was saying, like a little bit like a while back. Is that like what is the solution? It is hard to find the solution, but I think it's still also fair to be critical and not just like be resigned to your fate, right? That like, oh, this is the compromise we have to take, so that we can have our understanding of this more and more complex world. But I think it's also good to be like, well, how can we push this further? I mean, I'm sure they were saying the same thing before with like feudalism. It's like, well, this is the best system we have right now, and I think we can keep trying to discuss like better ways to fight this mechanism of propaganda and mass suggestion, or at least be critical about like how like the in this case what they're talking about is the invisible government, ways we can reform it if it is a necessary compromise to have at least a better understanding of the issues and have like a big government to be able to understand the complexities of the situation using, ideally using experts to properly identify the problem and possible solutions. That need for the invisible government. I'm wondering if there's a way we can reform it further to try and stop like the ways it's being abused, or the way this visible government is being used to abuse us and manipulate us.
Demonstrated. The technical means have been invented and developed by which opinion may be regimented. With the printing press and the newspaper, the railroad, the telephone, telegraph, radio, and airplanes, ideas can be spread rapidly and even instantaneously all over the whole of America. H. G. Wells senses the vast potentialities of these inventions when he writes in the New York Times. Modern means of communication, the power afforded by print, telephone, wireless, and so forth, of rapidly putting through directive strategic or technical conceptions to a great number of cooperating centers, of getting quick replies and effective discussion have opened up a new world of political processes. Ideas and phrases can now be given an effectiveness greater than the effectiveness of a personality and stronger than any sectional interest. The common design can be documented and sustained against perversion and betrayal. It can be elaborated and developed steadily and widely without personal, local, and sectional misunderstanding. What Mr. Wells says of political processes is equally true of commercial and social processes and all manifestations of mass activity.
Modern means of communication, the power afforded by print, telephone, wireless, so forth, rapidly putting through directives, strategic and technical conceptions of great number cooperating centers, of getting quick replies, effective discussion, have opened up a new world political processes. The idea and phrases that have been given an effectiveness greater than the effectiveness of a personality, stronger than any sectional interest. A common design can be documented and sustained against perversion and betrayal. It can be elaborated and developed steadily and widely without personal, local, and sectional misunderstanding.
The groupings and affiliations of society today are no longer subject to local and sectional limitations. When the Constitution was adopted, the unit of organization was the village community, which produced the greater part of its own necessary commodities, and generated its group ideas and opinions by personal contact and discussion among its citizens. But today, because ideas can be instantaneously transmitted to any instance and to any number of people, this geographical integranon has been supplemented by many other
The Constitution was adopted, the unit of organization was village communities, which produced the greater part of its own necessary commodities, and generated its group ideas and opinions by personal context discussion among its citizens. But today, because ideas can be instantaneously transmitted to any stance and to any number of people, this geographical integration has been supplemented by any
kinds of grouping, so that persons having the same ideas and interests may be associated and regimented for common action even though they live thousands of miles apart. It is extremely difficult to realize how many and diverse are these cleavages in our society. They may be social, political, economical, racial, religious, or ethical, with hundreds of subdivisions of each. In the World Almanac, for example, the following groups are listed under the is: the League to Abolish Capital Punishment, Association to Abolish War, American Institute of Accountants, Actors Equity Association. They may be social, political, economical, racial, religious, or ethical, with hundreds of subdivisions of each. In the World Almanac, for example, the following groups are listed under the is: the League to Abolish Capital Punishment, Association to Abolish War, American Institute of
hundreds of subdivisions of each. In the World Almanac, for example, the following groups are listed as the oh. I see. It's like a lot of organizations.
Accountants, Actors
Yeah,
Equity
I have
Association,
different
Actuarial Association of America, International Advertising Association, National Aeronautic Association, Albany Institute of History and Art, Amen Corner, American Academy in Rome, American Antiquarian Society, League for American Citizenship, American Federation of Labor, AMORC, Rosicrucian Order, an Anton Club, American Irish Historical Association, Anti-Cigarette League, Anti-Profanity League, Archaeological Association of America, National Archery Association, Aryan Singing Society, American Astronomical Association, Ayrshire Breeders Association, Aztec Club of 1847. There are many more under the A section of this very limited list. The American Newspaper Annual and Directory for 1928 lists 22,128 periodical publications in America. I have selected at random the NS published in Chicago. 42 Edward Bernays Propaganda. 43. They are Narod, Bohemian Daily Newspaper, Narod Poisk, Polish Monthly, NA.R.D, Pharmaceutical, National Corporation Reporter, National Culinary Progress, for Hotel Chefs, National Dog Journal, National Drug Clerk, National Engineer, National Grocer, National Hotel Reporter, National Income Tax Magazine, National Jeweler, Natmna, Journal of Chiropractic, National Livestock Producer, National Msler, National Nut News, National Poultry, Butter, and Egg Bulletin, National Provisioner, for Meat Packers, National Real Estate Journal, National Retail Clothser, National Retail Lumber Dealer, National Safety News, National Spiritualist, National Underwriter, The Nation's Health, N.A. at Enos.
Look, I get it. I get it.
Daily Newspaper, Newcomer, Republican Weekly for Italians, Dawsley News, The New World, Catholic Weekly, North American Banker, North American Veterinarian. The circulation of some of these publications is astonishing. The national livestock producer has a sworn circulation of 155,978, the narwhal engineer, of 20,328, the New World, an estimated circulation of 67,000. The greater number of the periodicals listed chosen at random from among 22,128 have a circulation in excess of 10,000. The diversity of these publications is evident at a glance. Yet they can only faintly suggest the multitude of cleavages which exist in our society, and along which flow information and opinion carrying authority to the individual groups. Here are the conventions scheduled for Cleveland, Ohio, recorded in a single recent issue of World Convention Dates -A fraction of the 5,500 conventions and rallies scheduled.
There's a lot of
The Employing Photo Engravers Association of America, the Outdoor Writers Association, the Knights of St. They would still represent but a part of those existing less format but leading vigorous lives. Ideas are sifted and opinions stereotyped in the Neighborhood Bridge Club. Leaders assert their authority through community drives and amateur theatricals. Thousands of women may unconsciously belong to a sorority which follows the fashions set by a single society leader. 44 Edward Bernays Propaganda 45. Lee satirically expresses this idea and the reply which it represents an American as giving to the Britisher who praises this country for having no upper and lower classes or castes. Yet, all we have is the 400, the white-collar men, bootleggers, Wall Street barons, criminals, the DAR, the KKK, the colonial dames, the Masons, Kiwams, and Rotarians, the KFC, the Elks, the censors, the Conoscenti, the morons, heroes like Lindy, the WCTU, Polyutions. They would still represent but a part of those existing less format but leading vigorous lives. Ideas are sifted and opinions stereotyped in the Neighborhood Bridge Club. Leaders assert their authority through community drives and amateur theatricals. Thousands of women may unconsciously belong to a sorority which follows the fashions set by a single society leader. 44 Edward Bernays Propaganda 45. Lee satirically expresses this idea and the reply which it represents an American as giving to the Britisher who praises this country for having no upper and lower classes or castes. Yet, all we have is the 400, the
This idea which accepts America as giving to the British who praise this country for having no lower class or caste. Yeah, what we have is for
white-collar men, bootleggers, Wall Street barons, criminals, the DAR, the KKK, the colonial dames, the Masons, Kiwams, and Rotarians, the KFC, the Elks, the censors, the Conoscenti, the morons, heroes like Lindy, the WCTU, Polyutions, Menke Knights, the Bubbles, immigrants, broadcasters, and the rich and poor. Yet it must be remembered that these thousands of groups interlace. John Jones, besides being a Rotarian, is member of a church, a fraternal order, of a political party, of a charitable organization, of a professional association, of a local chamber of commerce, of a league for or against prohibition or of a society for or against lowering the tariff, or of a golf club. The opinions which he receives as a Rotarian, he will tend to disseminate in the other groups in which he may have influence. This vassal, intertwining structure of groupings and associations is the mechanism by which democracy has organized its group mind and simplified its mass thinking. To deplore the existence of such a mechanism is to ask for a society such as never was and never will be. To admit that it exists, but expect that it shall not be used, is unreasonable. Emil Ludwig represents Napoleon as ever on the watch for and cations of public opinion, always. To deplore the existence of such a mechanism is to ask for a society such as never was and never will be. To admit that it exists, but expect that it shall not be used, is unreasonable. Emil Ludwig represents Napoleon as ever on the watch for and cations of public opinion, always stinning to the voice of the people, a Rome which defies calculation. Do you know, he said in those days, what amazes me more than all else? The impotence of force to organize anything. It is the purpose of this book to explain the structure of the mechanism which controls the public mind, and to tell how it is manipulated by the special pleader who seeks to create public acceptance for a particular idea or commodity. It will attempt at the same time to find the due place in the modern democratic scheme for this new propaganda and to suggest its gradually evolving code of ethics and practice.
We're gonna do the last part again. I'm gonna try to see if I can find these guys first. 'Cause this is so fun. What? Hi there. Hi there. Look, I'm just trying to get around you. I don't think that's too bad. I think there's like a tunnel there for some reason. I heard you. Where does that mean? I'm gonna give up on this. I think I might get off for a little bit. I'm shooting for probably like 4 hours and I need a break. Oh.